Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards from Magic Online. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Good evening.
Ruben Bressler.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Everything is lovely as we continue.
Everything's great. I am not dead this week. Or today. I had some sketchy pickles yesterday, and they did not agree with me, and so the top 10 was delayed, sadly.
I hate it when that happens.
We gotta get a weekly segment of Sketchy Pickles, and this week in Sketchy Pickles.
I remember when Sketchy Pickles was a really good standard deck.
Nice.
Back in the day.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
Goodness gracious. All right, that said, we get started with our Trumpet Blast. You can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. Don't have one this week, but we have special notes. We have a raid at the end of the show, which is having us give back to the community. Ruben will deem whoever is worthy of that, and we will jump in there.
We've given Ruben too much power, is what's happened. What I do is I choose who wins the top 10 comment, and I get to choose who gets the raid. I am drunk on my ability to bestow power upon the people and the masses.
So much power. Giveaway this week is for a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com, ! raffle in the chat. If you're a subscriber, you get 2 entries because you're awesome. And we love you. All right, we get started each week with our first pick. This week, we are looking at Magic and My Little Pony came together. And so now we have the, what do they call it, the Galloping, Ponies the Galloping, something like that. See if we can get it here on screen for you guys to take a look, because this is truly fairly remarkable, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
This is Wizards and Hasbro, like kind of pushing further and further. We had a Nerf axe at one point, but that's Nerf. We had Transformers, but okay. But did we ever expect to see Rarity and Nightmare Moon that flips over into Princess Luna, and then Princess Twilight Sparkle, which in and of itself, we're talking about horses, Pegasi, ponies, unicorns, every pony winning the game. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
so
these are delightful. I'm super happy that these exist, and they are not for me, but I'm glad they exist. And all of the proceeds of the sale of these are going to go to Extra Life for the Miracle Children's Network hospitals. This is Extra Life month, season. We just wrapped up our Extra Life thing for my D&D show. There's more Extra Life stuff coming down the pike, such as I believe the Chalice is coming soon, which is the Card Kingdom thing. I'm doing another Extra Life thing for the D&D stuff, and so I love that they're doing these crazy, weird ideas for charity. And this one in particular has a built-in audience and is delightful.
Oh, yeah, Trev. It's going to be available on HasbroPulse.com for $50 on October 22nd. U.S. and Canada only, unfortunately. There's also going to be a set of 3 playmats featuring the 3 main artworks. I don't think it actually has the Princess Luna. It features the Nightmare Moon.
Right.
And they're going to be doing that for $99.99 on October 22nd, same day. And 4 different MTG Arena sleeve styles are going to be available for $4 each from October 28th through November 4th.
That's awesome. That's super funny.
Now, you get to keep them past November 4th, right?
I would hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so my apologies. I was incorrect here. It looks like this is going to be... All right, so there's a double-sided playmat. That's what's happening. Because I was like, there's only 3 playmats. Well, there's a double-sided playmat with Nightmare Moon and Princess Luna, and then regular playmats for Twilight Sparkle and Rarity. So again, $100 get those through Ultra Pro. $50 get this set, basically until they sell out on HasbroPulse.com.
This seems like a super easy buy, right? This is like gonna immediately be worth more than MSRP not MSRP, but immediately be worth more than $50, right?
I mean, I bought the Hasbro HasCon thing last year for $40, and it's like $120 right now. So
sure.
I'll take those 3x gains or whatever.
Yeah. This seems like a super easy thing to pick up.
If you got $50 and you can hold on to it for a year or two, it is absolutely worth it, if nothing else, just to get return on investment.
Right.
Or your kids love My Little Pony, and this is really cool. I absolutely feel confident that within the next 5 years, we're going to see a Monopoly guy on a Magic card.
Cool.
I think that's just going to happen. And they just buy Peppa the Pig
Peppa
and whatnot.
Pig.
Yep, Peppa Pig.
So we could
They
see
also
a
bought
Peppa
Death
set.
Row Records. I
Death
look
Row.
forward to that
I want
mashup.
Tupac. Yeah, I want Tupac on a Magic card. Yeah.
Tupac, Snoop, Dre.
Shug, creature type knight.
Well, if you're gonna make
Oh my
Tupac,
God.
he has to have Undying because he's not really dead.
It's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
Murder was the case. All right. So that was absolutely terrific and a good way to give back and also get something really cool at the same time, which is neat.
Yeah. Now, I will mention that if that is our headlining article of the episode,
Yes.
not a super busy week this week in Magic the Gathering.
A little slow.
We got a couple bombs towards this, leading up to this show, but
That's
yeah.
true.
Splash damage is
Is gonna have-
mainly.
Yeah.
We're going to have a big splash damage this week.
Yeah.
That said, we're moving here to gather the townsfolk, as we do. They noted here that they previously announced first of all, the announcement being 2 days ago that there was no changes to any formats, and I think that's messed up because Pauper players are like, please, Ephemerate or Astrolabe.
Ephemerate, right.
Yeah, or Astrolabe. Like, you either gotta go, or Wizards, you gotta say that you're looking at those cards because, like, it's getting bad. Like, it's
Astrolabe's super unreasonable.
Arkham's Astrolabe is just the best thing you can do on almost any turn in a Pauper game, to blink it, to bounce it, to play it, to fix all of your mana all at one time. Super low cost or just playing Snowlands or whatever. It's ridiculous.
It's pretty absurd.
If Wizards is in any way giving a crap about Pauper, if they could tell us here, that would have been appreciated. That said, no changes. The next BNR announcement was previously announced for November 18th. They say, quote, after further reflection on the very busy competitive gaming schedule and discussion on implementation windows with our digital teams, we are shifting that next announcement to October 21st. So 2 weeks.
There were a couple of theories as to why this is happening. So I was keeping up with the coverage from Philly this weekend, and it was Golos as far as the eye could see. Golos mirrors. There was a lot of feedback about the fact that standard mirrors were taking longer than legacy and modern games, where it came down to the standard games taking a while. The rounds were going 20 minutes past time, largely attributed to these standard matchups. The format is supposed to be super grindy. When you look at the day 2 metagame breakdown, 13 were Bant Golos decks, which is almost as many as so there were about 10 decks in the top of day 2, and more than half of them were Golos decks. So Golos had a huge showing this weekend. A lot of complaints about Field of the Dead and people feeling like they don't really have the tools to deal with it. It was just the feedback coming out of Philly was largely negative, and it had to do with standard.
Yeah, Field is not long for this world. They cycled Alpine Moon, they cycled Blood Sun, and they cycled Field of Ruin, and didn't replace them with anything. The best tools you have to fight against Field of the Dead right now are Assassin's Trophy and ways to deal with the zombies, which is less than ideal.
It turns out that at the opportunity cost of playing a land and things that go get lands to give you free creatures every time you do a basic action in Magic that is uncounterable,
so this reminds me a lot of a mistake that Hearthstone made last year. And 4 years ago, actually. Hearthstone came out with a couple of cards that I don't remember the name of, but one of the cards was, if you only have even casting cost cards in your deck, your hero power costs 1.
Right.
And then the other one was, if you only have odd cost cards in your deck, your hero power gets better. 4 or 5 years ago at this point, Reno Jackson decks were all over the place because there was an effect that was kind of game breaking that he had, but at the deck building requirement of only having singletons in your deck, which reminds me very much of Field of the Dead. The cost of Field of the Dead is having a funky mana base. It's having a weird, deck. It's having to have Boros Guildgate in your deck, right? Like, that's the cost of playing Field of the Dead. But the upside, once you're done building the deck, is so high that it doesn't even matter. So Hearthstone's made this mistake a number of times, and so to see Magic make the same mistake is kind of disheartening. But also seems like, I can't imagine that they're going to push up this announcement for any other reason Vintage would feel the
Well, they did say it had nothing to do with Vintage because Eternal Weekend is just around the corner. And I think Rich Shea had asked them if it was related, and they confirmed it had nothing to do with Vintage. But Golos is even seeing play in older formats. Golos was spotted in a Cloud Post deck in Legacy at Philly. There is a Stacks deck in Vintage that runs Golos now. Like, Golos is so good that it is seeing play in older formats, which, you know, we all know is a very tough nut to crack. You got to be a really good card to make it into these old formats, and it seems to be.
I saw Golos in Tron in Modern the other day. That was pretty cool.
I'm starting to see like the weird sort of amalgam of decks. I played, before we started filming the night, I played a Golos, Fires of Invention Golos deck that just ran it out there and run out Golos and just went nuts.
Speaking of Fires of Invention, I ran into somebody in a Modern League last night playing Taking Turns with Fires of Invention, and I was like, why are you like this?
Oh, that's so good.
Fires of Invention, savor the moment is really good. I also saw recently Fires of Invention in Modern, because I was just on the Modern Masters of Modern podcast earlier. So that'll be coming out later this week. Be sure to follow the MMcast to see my appearance. There was a Fires of Invention Restore Balance deck that we found a list for that 5-0'd. Yeah, as foretold, Fires of Invention, Restore Balance, and also Crashing Footfalls, and Ancestral Vision, and Sea of Wishes, and Greater Gargadon. It was a delight.
Jeez.
Modern, by the way, is super healthy right now. I know that we were worried, but it seems like there are a lot of decks, like more than any other format right now, that could call itself the top dog.
Sure.
Fires of Invention is a ridiculous Magic card. Like, actual scary.
Yeah.
Why do you keep giving us free things like, 2/2 zombies every time we play lands, and free spells equal to the number of lands we have because you can only play 2 a turn? It just, we are, and looking at Oko, and we'll get to this as one of literally the best Planeswalkers of all time.
It's wild that there is a blue 3-mana Planeswalker that ticks up to 6 that isn't Oko in this set, and we never talk about it. We haven't talked about the Royal Scions once.
No, and honestly...
It has 2+1s and draws a card.
And honestly, I think that card is about to break out. I think that card is super, super good, playable even in older formats, because again, the loyalty... Yeah, because the loyalty is super duper high. It does exactly what you want in the decks that you're doing it with. I read somebody on Reddit was going like, this card is going to explode and people don't even understand, and they went through all the reasonings, and I thought all that stuff was sound and all those things make sense. The Royal Silence is just, I think we are playing with such unbelievably powerful stuff. It's hard to notice all the powerful stuff that you aren't playing.
It definitely feels like over the last couple sets, Wizards has really leaned on the gas pedal. When you look at the power level of, Modern Horizons, or when you look at, the power level of this set, or even 2020 to some degree, it's like the card, or even War of the Spark, look at how long, Karn was not long for this world when it came to Vintage. It was banned within, 3 months? Restricted within 3 months? I mean, Mystic Forge, restricted in 3 months. Like, these cards are, coming out of the door and immediately having this impact in multiple formats. Narset, Modern, Standard, Legacy, Vintage. I mean, and so on the one hand, it's nice because we would rather they take those risks, but just having to live through it is quite an experience.
Yeah, we'll cover some more of those later. There was a Grand Prix this weekend. It's hard to tell because there was no coverage of it.
Yeah.
And Alexander Hayne won it.
Hey, hometown boy. Yeah.
In his hometown of Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, this year we've had a couple of hometown winners. Denver, I believe, was a hometown winner as well. Just super unfortunate that we don't get to watch it, man. I miss Grand Prix coverage.
Yeah,
and I get it that it would have been limited, and limited is never as popular as constructed, and blah blah blah. But be happy with your split coverage or whatever it is these days, which is fine. One Jim Pavelec seems to be coming back through to Magic and artwork, and I'm going to see exactly what cards that he had done previously. Jim Pavelec, is that right?
Pavelec with a P.
Pavelec, I'm sorry. Pavelec.
He's been off for a while. He's
been
not
a minute.
Yeah.
We're talking like
he did pulling teeth.
He did pulling teeth. He did Frazzled Editor. Frazzled Editor is a good one. He did Mirror Weave.
Okay.
That was really cool. He was active a lot during Lorwyn.
Such a distinct, creepy style too.
Yeah. He's
Pointy to this day is maybe the creepiest art in the history of Magic.
It's creepy, but I think it also taps into just a fear that we all have. Nobody likes going to the dentist, no one wants to think of someone doing that to your teeth. When someone's working on your teeth, you don't have to see that. But, even just the thought of when you think about somebody, I remember being a kid and there was the running joke about tying your tooth to a string and stuff. No, I can't, as an adult, I cannot think of that and not cringe or shiver. And so it's just something that taps into, I think, a lot of people's fear of teeth and touching your teeth and breaking teeth and ugh.
His most expensive card that he illustrated, it was Waves of Aggression and Eventide. That card's almost $8. That's just one of those that's hard to reprint.
I know why. Well, it's hard to reprint, and Italy. You put it in Italy. You want every extra combat step card in Italy, and that's the best one. Quite honestly.
Yeah, there you go, because you just keep retracing it, which is cool. That said, excuse me. There was a post this week by Corbin Hostler, who is a LGS owner, as I understand it, actually runs his own store, and is selling the Brawl decks for $30 each, which is way under TCG Player, which is like $50 or so. Yep. And yet people still complain to him that they aren't charging $20 like they heard you could get them at Walmart for. Right. But there's also something to be said to supporting your LGS, and is that $10 really the breaker of your entire budget? And you don't go to your LGS to hang out and trade and sit around and play events and so on and so forth. And he notes that every store I've ever worked at or owned sold at MSRP, even when things were going for double that online. I believe community is worth more than a few extra dollars. Our community is great, but it's very frustrating when some don't return the relationship.
Yeah, it was really disappointing to see this backlash from people that thought that they were being gouged somehow by their stores. And, obviously, if you don't have the means to do it, no one's saying that, you must pay more. No one's saying that. But I think what they're saying is if you have a choice, if you have the money to spend, if you're not hurting and you have a choice and you are somebody that benefits from that relationship, choose to support your game store instead, because there is still this misconception that LGS owners are just rolling in it, and the margins are getting thinner and thinner. We've certainly covered a lot of stories in which we've shown that they don't always get the support they're supposed to from on high. And so, if that means you can give a little something more to that, then you really should. And I was amazed to see how many people were so upset of, how dare they try to make a living.
I mean, Brawl was hilariously underprinted, to the point where you're like, did they really, at some point you're like, did they do this on purpose? Did they really not think that Arcane Signet, literally the best thing you could follow up Soul Ring with, is not going to be a popular card? These cards aren't going to be good enough in Standard to see any play at all ever. The reprint, as the word goes, is going to be here mid to late November. Right. So if you can wait about a month and a half or so, you should be able to get them at very reasonable prices. And once the market actually is saturated and has what it's looking for, you'll be able to get them for $20, $25 is my guess. But for right now, everything's hard to get.
Yeah, I was at Kiki Tees in Burbank last week, and they were selling. They sell Magic stuff, but they mostly sell board game stuff and tea, obviously. And the guy who was running it, who's one of the owners, asked me, "Hey, why are these flying off the shelves when I'm selling them for $20?" And I was like, "Oh, you're selling them for $20? Good. Okay. Well, here's why. It's because Arcane Signet is $20, right? And also all of the commanders are $10. So that's why most people are selling them for this number. If you sold them for this number, it would still be a good deal. That's why they're flying off the shelf." He was like, "Cool." And then he just put it back on the shelf, which was great. Because he doesn't make all his money off of Magic.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a little disheartening. But that's Magic players, right? We're always looking for our value.
It's true.
And so, but you have to go to level 2 at that point. It's not just what is the value to me, it's what is the value for the rest of my life to me. If everybody goes to Amazon, right? This is why you support your friendly local game store. This is why I buy my books from the friendly local game stores, is I can get them on Amazon for super cheap. I see the sales all the time. I can get D&D books on Amazon for less than they are printed at usually. But I don't, because that's horrendous for the environment.
Well, because Amazon is currently trying to burn off all of the LGSs in, honestly, the world. It's the same thing they did with diapers, for God's sake. Like, they find a market, they burn cash until that market can no longer sustain the competition of Amazon, and the competitors fold, and Amazon raises their prices, and they've won. And they've done that multiple times. This isn't like a giant secret that we're sharing here. But that said, support your LGS. There was a Pauper 1K at RWHobbies.
Speaking of LGSs, one of the best in the nation.
I love this store so much.
Yeah, it is absolutely terrific. It has produced a bunch of Pro Tour winners, not to mention Pro Tour grinders that you see all the time. And Tolarian Community College took a visit there, especially for this Pauper event, as I understand it, and had fantastic numbers. Hundreds of people got to play in this thing, which is awesome.
147 participants.
Wow, that's terrific.
So RIW is an amazing store. I think Ari Lax, Patrick Chapin, Brian DeMars, a lot of Michigan folks got their start at this store.
Right.
I'll never forget the first time I ever ran into RIW games. I was at GP Philadelphia for Born of the Gods Sealed. I was only there to visit some friends because I don't play Sealed. But I was playing Living End at the time, and I needed Fairy Macabres. I didn't bring any Fairy Macabres with me. And none of the other vendors had them because they typically only bring, if it's a Sealed GP, they might bring like their good cards. They don't really bring bulk or anything. And so I remember going to every vendor, and there was a guy, and he saw me kind of going from store to store, and he was like, "What are you looking for?" And I was like, "Oh, just like a Fairy Macabre." And he's like, "Give me a minute." And he goes and he grabs this binder, and they had everything there. And sure enough, he's like, "How many do you need? 2, 3, 4 playset? You good?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Do you have a playset?" And I never forget that. And he, even before the deck tees kind of got big or anything, he knew who I was. And like, I would see him at subsequent events, and he'd be like, "Fairy Macabre, how you doing?" And I'd just be like, "How do you remember me?" And so they've just always been super lovely, super supportive. I think they even had a fire a couple years ago where they like rebuilt and came back even better, and just nothing bad to say about this store. And it's just what it should be, thinking of it as this lovely environment that brings people together and great staff, and you feel welcome when you talk to them, and just I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, they're spectacular.
Thank you for the raid, Jay Chancellor.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
That's
a raid or did some sharing?
Cheers. Cheering.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, some cheering, which was awesome.
Yay.
Cool. So that happened. There is the Mythic Championship 5 broadcast team. The coverage team was announced. And this is pretty close to just the rock star all-star lineup of Magic coverage.
I mean, it is, isn't it?
We have Day 9.
Who are we missing?
I think Patrick Sullivan is the only sort of play-by-play and or expert commentary I'd want to hear on a Pro Tour level, but otherwise, Day 9 hosting, Maria Bartholdi, Marshall Sutcliffe, Alias V, Becca Scott, Cedric Phillips, Brian Kibler, Paul Cheon. Like, just give me a +1 with Patrick Sullivan, and it's just like my dream team, actual factual dream team.
And we have heard, theoretically, I thought I heard somewhere that BDM was coming back in some capacity.
Really?
I thought that was something I'd heard through the grapevine. Obviously, can neither confirm nor deny, because it was not immediately confirmed. But this top 8 of announcers here is pretty close to the ideal setup. There was a while there where I thought that I was going to try to break my way into this kind of top 8 of all-star announcers. But this is a team of not just super amazing professionals, but also decades of experience, and not a combination of new faces, relatively new faces, and people that we've known for 10 years. I think that this is it's tough to get better than this.
I mean, speaking of faces that we know, someone said I could really go for some MTG Rich. That would be Richard Hagon,
right,
on that list. And he says, I'm there at the show, working in the broadcast truck, talking in ear for the assorted talent.
Right.
If there's a terrible pun and isn't said by Maria, it's probably mine. And if it is said by Maria, it's probably 50-50.
Perfect.
Which is terrific. So at least he's still involved. And if BDM can still make it, that would be fantastic. All right. This week, there was an article by Emma Partlow. Was that correct? Yes, Emma Partlow. And she writes sort of part 1 of the Beginner's Guide to Writing Magic Content. in terms of like, why do you want to write, and knowing what you want from content creation, like exactly what are you trying to get from zero to, you know, some level that you want to be known as, or something you want to be specialized in, or what have you. Some best practices in there, like consistency. Let me tell you, from running multiple very popular Magic content sites, everybody has one good article, okay? Everybody has one good one, and you say what you mean to say, and you have that cool insight, or you have that sweet deck list that only you can talk about in the way you talk about it, and then you can't ever write anything else. You're done. You've given the world your one golden egg, and it's like, that's cool. But the reason that Chapin is Chapin and Flores is Flores and all these authors are as well known as they are, I mean, hell, we're here every week. Right? We want to be consistent. You want to continually get your voice out there and your content in front of people. That's very important. The quality and the research and all that good stuff.
I'm really glad that she wrote this, because I remember when I was first starting out, one of the reasons that I even got into podcasting was because at that time you couldn't write unless you had some credentials, where it was really just Star City, TCG, CFB, and Gathering Magic. And like, you had to have a resume. You either had to have won something or someone had to know who you are. And it was really hard for new writers to break out. I remember the meadery was a thing for like a little while there, where like that was a really good place for like new writers to get their start. But you know, it was very hard to break out if you didn't have any sort of resume behind it. And now we have a lot of sites like Hipsters of the Coast and TCG Player and Legit MTG and even smaller sites that I don't know the names of because there's so many now. But it's a lot easier to break into content now. And so if you are thinking of getting into it, somebody will take your articles and somebody will read them. And if you're not sure how to get started, this is a really great place to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
the proliferation of Magic sites has also been a reason, or a reason for the proliferation of Magic sites has partially been due to streaming popularity and stream teams, the Viper Brood and other similar folks like that. In addition to podcasts becoming the more common way that people consume their media, it's been another paradigm shift in how people consume their Magic content. And so it's been healthy. It's been really good that it's not just the 2 or 3 websites anymore. And this article that Emma wrote is really a great little breakdown and very helpful. And the thing that stuck out to me, people constantly ask us, how do you break in? How do you do it? And the fact that the number one thing was consistency is never to be understated. It is showing up every week, showing up every month, showing up every day, whatever it is, making sure that you put in the schedule. The second thing is quality. You can work on the quality, but you got to get there. You got to, start churning the wheels before you can do other things. Yeah.
One thing that also means a lot to me, and I've kind of touched on this on previous shows, is that the definition of content has really evolved over the last couple of years, where, for a while there, content was just articles, and then we had a podcasting surge where it felt like everybody had a podcast. Remember MTG Cast? You could literally go down that page and everybody had a show. And then that kind of fizzled out a little bit. A lot of shows are not with us anymore. But, I believe that if you cosplay, you are a content creator. If you're a streamer, you're a content creator. If you do alters, if you're an altarist or you make dice or you make tokens, you are creating content. I don't think of content creation as being just writers anymore. And I love seeing all of these people come forward. And if that's what you're good at and that's what you do, then do that and make that happen. And I love seeing people commit to something and just kill it.
MTG Cast, as far as I know, is still up and running. It appears to be right now. The Monday Night Magic, for example, which is into episode
still going around.
669.
Wow, nice.
Nice. Number 669 was just posted yesterday.
Go ahead and click that.
There you go. So that's really sweet. Congratulations to those guys. But
absolutely,
there are avenues, there are paths to take, there are ways to do it. And even if it's just like your own like medium.com page or whatever, if it's just something you can say, I wrote about Magic, here is where you can find it. Because people approach me all the time and I'm like, all right, what you got? And they're like, well, here's like this one Word doc like I threw together, a couple months ago. Like, no, show me something you've posted that people have seen that you've tried to promote. Show me that you've tried to promote it. Stuff like that matters, and this is a good way to get started.
Absolutely.
All right. Ruben, you want to tell us a little bit about the SCG Tour announcements?
Oh, do I have to?
It's up to you, buddy.
I mean, I guess if it's going to be somebody, I guess it might as well be me.
I kept up with this as well. You know, as the one who goes to the most events.
Right, exactly.
I'm the one that has to field y'all's calls when I go to events of, Aaron, is Ribbon with you?
Right.
Evan behind you? Nope, it's just me. Me.
But yes, the 2020 SCG Tour Season 1 has been announced. Lots of TBAs, lots of to be determined, but they're going to kick things off in my stomping grounds of Columbus, Ohio, with Team Non-Unified Modern and all of the various sundry classic formats, all of them, Standard, Modern, and Legacy. So that'll be January 4th and 5th in Columbus, Ohio, which is a great place. Of course, most folks, I think, at this point know that it's one of the best places in the Midwest, one of the best places really in the United States to have a tournament, is at that Greater Columbus Convention Center. You get some exclusive new stuff, including a brand new Seb McKinnon playmat that looks like it came right out of Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Yeah, and most notably, they're not giving away the playmats with every event anymore. You now have to use your prize tickets to get them, which they're saying cuts down on the player meetings, and also cuts down on the cost of having to make so many playmats that don't get picked up.
Interesting.
So they're also the Star City Games Tour Opens are going to be awarding, championship level invites. Similar to the LATAM Magic Series. And so a lot of the events at the end of this year, and of course all of the events in 2020, are awarding multiple invitations for the next Players Tour. So
for Commander as well. They've obviously tapped into the same trend that Wizards has in terms of making a command zone. So they say that at every single open there will be a command zone of sorts where Wizards has given them permission to give away the non-foil soul rings that everybody seemed to want in Vegas. And so just giving you more to do. If you don't want to play in the main event, you can just play Commander all weekend. It's totally fine. And so the one thing that really stuck out to me about this is it does feel like they are staying a lot closer to home.
Yes.
They never traveled out west, and I think they confirmed that that's not changing anytime soon. But they did creep towards, there were Minneapolis opens, Milwaukee had been given several opens, and they're really not going any more west than Indianapolis right now. Really is the cutoff point. And so it's a bit of a bummer. If you really want to be grinding the SCG circuit, you need to be one of those East Coast, maybe Southern, that kind
Not
of
even that Southern. I mean, yeah. You can't, the three of us live in Wisconsin, Florida, and California. There is nothing that's within. I mean, you have an Atlanta. If you really wanted to go to Atlanta, Evan, still, how long's that drive?
I don't know, a good 5 hours, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very localized tournament series at this point. And long gone are the days when the SCG Tour would go to St. Louis or to Las Vegas, Seattle even. Yeah, exactly. And it's fine. It's unfortunate, but it's fine. It's just that as it has centralized, it has not dropped in popularity. It has not dropped in gravitas, clearly, because you can still get invites to the big show from these tournaments. But it is unfortunate for folks who live in, the second and third biggest cities in the United States, Chicago and Los Angeles, that they got nothing. They got bupkis.
All right, so moving on here with our last bit for Gather the Townsfolk, we have the Great Eldraine Bake Off. Your entries were due last Friday, but we did get to see some that posted on social media. Here's
Louis
Scott.
Just click on the hashtag. My God, It's a treat. No pun intended, but it's a treat. Just every single entry is just breathtaking.
You should intend the puns you make. don't go with pun definitely intended.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I'm just showing some on screen here, looking at the hashtag. There's LSV's entry about with little Garrett figure.
LSV of all people getting involved. He doesn't seem like he'd be a Vorthos. He would do something like that, but he went all out, man.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And this awesome gingerbread version of Lyndon, the gingerbread queen.
Yes. Even the artist who made Lyndon, I think, discovered it, caught wind of it and shared it and was super impressed. I love this.
Oh my God.
Melvin the Muppet had a video that channel made. Just really spectacular work from the community. Super clever and delicious. looking.
Absolutely fantastic. So good luck to all those people who entered. I certainly enjoyed watching the creativity of that. Let's move here to Desperate Ravings, where we get the most desperate of Ravings this week from Matt Sperling. Matt Sperling, surprised, didn't like things about the set. Hello? Now I can't hear anybody. Uh-oh. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Oh, no. Oh, boy. Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, you're back.
Aaron, I think, is missing.
Aaron, did you
I don't
leave?
know what's happened. Aaron got disconnected, it seems.
Oh, no. Oh, boy. Oh, Lord, what the hell?
Hey, there he is.
Holy cow.
What did you do?
What happened?
Zoom just crashed. That's what happened.
Oh, okay.
So let me
So we have
fix
to
this.
relaunch? I'll
No.
tell the people.
No, we're still running.
Are we good? Okay.
We're good. I'm just fixing it now so it doesn't...
Oh, you're on the bottom now. Like, and in terms of like how my Zoom is set up, like Ruben's on top now and Evan's on the bottom. Can everybody guess? Are we here?
We're here.
Potatoes in chat, if you can hear us, please.
Oh my God! Please, all the
Taters in chat.
potatoes.
They see us. Okay.
All right, terrific. So,
Evan confirmed bottom.
Jesus. All right, so I'm going to be fixing all the things. Forgive it. Let's see, Ruben. While I'm doing that, let's talk.
I was going to say it came at a really good time as we move into Desperate Ravings, and this week we of course have the most desperate of Ravings, Desperate Ravings Hall of Famer. And notable Magic the Gathering curmudgeon.
I was just thinking of curmudgeon. Get out of my head.
The evil queen of Magic the Gathering articles, Matt Sperling, came out with his Sick of It edition this week, the day after my birthday. Happy birthday to me! Now I have Matt Sperling Sick of It, and it has some bones to pick in the food that is included in Throne of Eldraine. Not the least of which are pretty much all of the flavor of the set. He doesn't seem to be a super huge fan of, but yeah, I mean, it's always good to have him, come in and give his thoughts. And I just like it.
There was
fun.
There was a few things that I felt like was legitimate, like Questing Beast should have been the Questing Beast or something that said, this is a legendary permanent. Particularly when Aaron Forsyth noted it on Twitter, and a lot of people were like, wait, that's legendary?
Right.
Wait, is that legendary? And let me tell you, if you've ever played with that card, you know exactly why it's legendary, because it's stupid. But it also has like infinite random words on it. Like so many things are happening on this 1/4 drop. Yeah. It's kind of nuts. And random card generator keyword collections, like Robin Hood being red, I still think is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That 2-mana 2/2 has reach, which I get it, but it's still weird.
But yet the big giant with the hammer can't knock things out of the air.
Right. It's just, okay, that's odd. Box topper playables.
Yep. If you haven't ever, the box topper playable is a big deal. The Kenrith is seeing play. Yeah, that's awful. Like it's just Nexus of Fate 2.0, and it's even worse this time because theoretically there's a non-foil version you can get, and so you can't even proxy Kenriths if you want to. Yeah, that's a problem. I don't know what Magic would be without Sperling Sick of It. It's much maligned, but I think is a necessary part of our ecosystem.
Right. I think that he does enough good to where like the parts where he's, I think, just a little too cynical or just a little too nitpicky, still gets across the point of like, it is really weird to have knight tokens that aren't humans and human tokens that aren't knights or whatever, and things trigger off different ways, and that's a whatever. But things like, Brazen Borrower, everyone was accepted, and then no one revised their opinion when the card Stolen by Fate was spoiled because they thought Brazen Borrower was supposed to steal things. Right. And Wizard says it never did, so like, okay, whatever. Pointing out that Murderous Rider and Bone Crusher Giant are just like, you're clear. This is how you're going to deal 2 damage to a creature in Standard. This is how you're going to kill a Planeswalker or a creature in Standard. These are your 2 go-tos. Enjoy them. Okay, sure. I've been having a lot of fun with Adventures personally, but that's the thing. Oko is ridiculous, and he points that out But I didn't have to tell you that. If you played Magic, certainly Standard Magic in the last little bit, Oko's nuts.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Yep, another card seen play in multiple formats as far back as Vintage.
I mean, we're talking...
Oko's seen playing Vintage? Yep. Oh my gosh.
I mean, he makes Mox's 3/3s, right?
Oh,
who wouldn't want to turn one Oko?
It's true. Yeah.
Oko is Broko. Now,
C+.
Somewhat related to that, Brad Nelson tweeted out, "Remember Shadows over Innistrad? The first Open was dominated by Bant Company and White Weenie, and yet at the PT, most pros were playing Delirium Emrakul variants. Stop whining for bans after 2 weeks and start trying new cards." So this is the question of...
He's not wrong. I mean, it's been a week, you know? Like, I mean, at least with Hogak... With Hogak was a situation where we gave it time... People did everything they could, and they showed that nothing worked. And so at that point, the bans were necessary. But he's right. It's the first weekend. Like, card availability is an issue. You know, I can agree with him. I can see where he's coming from, that people were like, it was just a lot of complaining.
It's like, we get it that Golos is good, and we talked about it previously. You know?
So answer it. So fight it. Like, let's see what you got. You know, if you've shown that you've tried everything and it's still not working, then we can come back and have this conversation. But it's been a week. Like,
the thing that you
gotta want it, you know?
Right. The thing that kills Golos, if you want to beat Golos, just be fast. Just play a mono red deck, play a mono black knight or a Orzhov Knights deck. Like, get on the board and pressure them, and that's how you win. I was playing Green White Adventures, for example, and the white card, I think it's Unbreakable something or other. The one that if you cast it at sorcery speed, it puts a +1/+1 counter. Unbreakable Formation. Yeah, and I just completely wrecked them because, again, this was that weird Fires of Invention thing where they're like, oh, I'm going to Fires of Invention, then I'm going to what's the blue-white Wrath of God?
Time Wipe?
Time Wipe, thank you. They're like, whoa, Time Wipe. I'm like, no, you're not. All my guys are indestructible, and I kill you next turn. So, like, there's ways that you can work around these plays that they're doing.
For sure.
And I think that's what Brad's ultimately saying.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see where that goes, obviously. Ari Lax, who came from RIW, we talked about earlier, and has a medium take of the top 8 Planeswalkers of all time. Over half are from 2019. And his hot take that Jace the Mind Sculptor might be the only pre-2019 one in the top 5.
I mean,
he made a top 8 list, so his list says Jace is number 1, Narset 2, Renin 6-3, Oko 4, OG Lily 5, Karn 6, Teferi 3, 7, and Dak at 8. And he doesn't specify which Karn, but frankly, either.
Right. It would be great creator.
Oh, no.
It's the great creator.
He's talking about great creator. He says 7 is good, but not that good.
Right. It is terrific. And Narset just like, it's funny when you go back and you're still like, you know, we meant for this to see play in older formats. And you're like, yeah, you really did, didn't you? You super did. You made it the right colors, the cost, it finds you spells. It's a dig through time over 2 turns, kind of, sort of. And it's bananas. Renin 6 is just like, if you know, when none of the safety barriers are up for standard and they're like, we're just going to put this thing right in modern, let's just make it insane, just make it completely ridiculous. And Oko right behind, Oko being listed above Liliana of the Veil, and that's not like insane,
wild.
But it's not that crazy. You're just like,
it's really not.
You're like,
it's wild.
It's so good. It's 2+ abilities, pluses that get rid of their creature, pluses that gives you a creature to block with. Like, Oko is completely fantastic. Teferi 3's in there. We didn't even talk about Hero of Dominaria, which crushed in its time and saw plenty of modern play.
Yep.
That card's still amazing. But
I remember there was a guy on Twitter, I don't remember his name, I think it was Jeezy maybe. He celebrated rotation, or he said he was going to, by strapping the 5 Teferi to like a rocket launcher or a firework, and like wanted to get rid of it. And that was his way of saying goodbye to standard. Like, there was a lot, people were not sad to see that card go.
Oko is seeing play in specifically in 4-color Urza in modern because it makes an artifact.
Oh my god.
And so if you can +2 make a Mox Sapphire every turn, that's pretty good.
I'm also enjoying the screenshots of people attacking with like the 3/3s. Like, I think someone took a Merit Lage and was like, oh, there's your 3/3. You know, just all the things that Oko turns
It's a
into.
good answer to a merit Leish.
Yeah, it's wild.
Like, I mean, I remember it. You can go back. I was just like, guys, no matter what scary thing they have, you just make it a 3/3. I'm like,
artifacts too. I remember when I was playing in the early access event and I was on the Cauldron deck and I was sitting there with my fingers crossed, like, please don't read the card, please don't read the card, because I was terrified that he was going through, that they were going to take my Cauldron from me. And the fact that he deals with an artifact or a creature, I mean, look how my artifacts are just, you know, omnipresent in Modern right now with the Urza decks, obviously in Vintage. You know, sometimes in Legacy. I mean, wow, the fact that you can take care of two different really big card types is for so little cost is ridiculous.
I think the thing is, like, I believe this is what happens when Wizards has traditionally, you know, been safer and made this, like, you know, 3 loyalty or even 2 loyalty and said, you know, we're going to go up to 4 and make a food token, and that's still pretty good on turn 2 with a Gilded Goose or whatever. And then they're just like, who gives a crap? Let's just make all these things plus. Let's give it 4 starting loyalty and go up to 6 because whatever, man, magic, you know? Like, right. This feels like what happens when Wizards was like, okay, we're going to give them the higher number. Like, it's not going to be a Kiora problem where it's just completely unplayable from Born of the Gods because the number was just too low.
Yeah.
So we now have crazy Oko, which is ridiculous. That said, moving on here to other things that are a little bit ridiculous, not quite as much, but Autumn Burchett noted that Kenrith the Return King could see serious play.
Right.
It might.
What we were touching on, yeah.
Touched on earlier. Now, a non-foil version exists, and here's the fun part. The non-foil is twice as expensive as the foil because the only way you can get it is collector boosters or the deluxe edition.
Yeah, this is a problem.
Now,
I played against I played a Field of the Dead Mirror, surprise, where my opponent played Kenrith because you have access to all the colors, and my opponent was just like, you know, play a land, play a Growth Spiral, play a land, put another land into play somehow. Kenrith, give all my creatures haste, and he could attack with everything.
Yikes.
Yes.
So
that's incredible.
That's
now,
a problem.
Right. So what they note here is that Kenriths exist in non-foil means that you can't just have a judge proxy your foils, but they're harder to get. Now, this to me sounds like something that is silly and easily fixable. This is a tiny policy update that the judges can use whatever they want. If they want to proxy a card that's foil, that has a non-foil version, and the head judge says, this is okay with me, then this is okay. Like, the fact that, you know, you're trying to put, like, the judge program is making you buy this expensive version, I think that's ridiculous, and that the judge program will quickly and easily fix this problem. I hope they do.
Yeah, this is a policy that affects one card. So we can easily do it.
Right.
I think it's possible that, I mean, yeah, there's no other card that I can think of where the non-foil is twice as expensive as the foil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not a Kess problem. And obviously this isn't a Nexus of Fate problem because there aren't non-foil Nexus of Fates. So, yeah, this one's an easy fix. I think they can just do it.
Right. So do note, as many said, like, what judge program? Well, the Judge Academy exists, but they don't set the policy. That stuff comes from Wizards.
Someone needs to do something, and once they figure out who needs to do the thing that they need to do, that'll be the process that takes the longest.
Right.
But once they figure out what the thing they need to do is and figure out who can do it, then it should be an easy fix.
Well, again, I think the judge program or, you know, the DCI or whoever's setting the policy just fix the thing and we move on. Speaking of moving on. Moving on to your splash damage. Aaron, tell about the TransLifeLine.
Oh, geez. So Aaron's about to get political. I know YouTube hates when I do that. So if you're on YouTube and you're watching, just go on ahead and fast forward about 5 minutes.
I don't have a clack.
It's fine. So for those who don't know, the Supreme Court is currently in the middle of listening to arguments in 3 different cases that would make it legal for companies to fire their employees just for being LGBTQ. Hasn't got a lot of press lately, which is pretty surprising because this is a really big decision that has the potential to affect more people than when the Supreme Court weighed in on the gay marriage issue. Not everybody wants to get married, but everybody needs jobs. And so this is a a really, really big deal.
Right.
Rather than sit around and worry, a lot of us have been, breathlessly watching the coverage, reading the transcripts, trying to figure out how this is going to go. 15 trans streamers decided they wanted to do something better with their time. So they decided to host a marathon, a streaming marathon for 4 days to raise money for an organization called the TransLifeLine. For those who don't know, the TransLifeLine is an amazing organization that offers a crisis line serving and staffed by trans people. And it also offers financial assistance for trans people who are looking to change their legal names and genders. For those who don't know, getting your name changed in Wisconsin alone is like $400. And so if you're a trans person who's already having a hard time finding a job and getting resources, that's a lot of money. These folks have raised over $15,000 so far, and it's only been a day and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and post a link in the chat here. If you can, please go and support them. Drop them a couple bucks. I won't be mad if you give them a couple bits tonight over us. And even if you can't support them financially, just go in the chat, tell them they're doing a good job, share the tweet. This is just a really great way to use your platform. It's great getting free cards, and it's great taking selfies of fans, but this is what you should be doing. Like, if you have the ability to inspire change, you should do that. And these people are a really good example of that. So I'm really glad to see this happening.
Absolutely. So,
and there are a number of Magic streamers amongst this group, right? A number, being at least one that I recognize.
Yeah, Ferociously Steph has been one of the major players in it. I've seen her stream Arena quite frequently, and I'm not familiar with the whole cast, but it does seem like there are a couple people there playing Arena at some point.
Yeah.
There you go. So please go and support that if you can. Now, speaking of more politics, and pretty explosive story currently. In a post-match Hearthstone Grandmasters winning interview, Hong Kong player Blitz Chung said, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age." And then the first thing Blizzard did was deleted the VOD from their Twitch channel, but they weren't done. Later, banned him, stripped all of his Hearthstone winnings. They're going to pay for all of his lost winnings, or we will pay for all his lost winnings and a ticket to our 500K tournament. No player should be punished for their beliefs, says Gods Unchained here. But that said, that is...
Oh, no, girl. They fired the casters.
They fired the casters who, hid under the table or something?
Yeah, so just to preface this, the reason why he was wearing a mask is because Hong Kong, or the Chinese government, has been a pioneer when it comes to facial recognition technology. Yeah. And the protesters in Hong Kong have been very good at staying one step ahead of the government. They're coordinated, they're organized, and so they've been wearing masks in defiance of the government so that they can't recognize them. So this young man went on camera, and the commentators were so afraid of the government, of even being seen with this guy, that as he started talking, they literally hid under the table. Like, they saw what he was trying to do and were like, "We cannot be seen with you." Like, that's how terrifying this situation is, that they hid under the table. And even then, they got fired for just being associated with the guy. Like, it was wild.
It was crazy. And as of this morning, Brian Kibler released a statement. And it was it was a very well-reasoned, sort of even keel, is the way I would put it, way to both explain the facts of the situation, that the Asian Pacific Hearthstone Grandmasters was finishing. And he lifted his mouthpiece and shouted, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age." On Tuesday, Blizzard announced that he had violated one of the rules against, quote, "engaging in any act that in Blizzard's sole discretion brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image." Now, that's obviously very vague, but that also gives Blizzard it gives Blizzard lots of options in terms of what conduct they want to promote and use. The penalty they imposed was expelling him from the league entirely, including retroactively revoking the prize money he had earned throughout the season and banning him from competing in events for a year.
That is wild. Along
with, they would no longer work with the casters involved in the controversial interview. He notes that what Blitzchung did there was very brave. He probably knew his actions would have serious consequences, so he commends him for that. He also says that Blizzard is not necessarily incorrect. He says, "I do think that Blizzard was correct in issuing him a penalty for his actions. However, Blizzard just went completely overboard in this thing." Now, here's the thing, and I'll tell you from someone who's had to help run a large tournament series with a lot of coverage that gets a lot of eyeballs, you don't necessarily want to let people turn your coverage or your platform into their platform.
Sure.
And, you know, at one point or other, there's people who are like, well, I'm gonna wear this t-shirt, I'm gonna wear this hat, and I'm gonna get behind this player while this coverage is happening so you can see this on stream. And it's like, you don't want to allow that stuff to necessarily happen, because it can soon just take over whatever it is you're trying to talk about in the first place. It's not about Magic or the event anymore. It's about who's wearing what and saying what about whatever political movement thing at the time. But again, just went completely over the top. The punishment, they said, is incredibly harsh, which is fine. Finally, he notes here, this kind of appeasement is not something that he can in good conscience be associated with. He reached out to Blizzard and informed them that he no longer feels comfortable casting the Grandmasters finals at BlizzCon. I will not be a smiling face on camera that tactically endorses this decision. That tacitly endorses this decision. Unless something changes, I have no involvement with Grandmasters moving forward.
I mean, he might not tactically endorse it either.
He buried the lead. You know, there were a couple of, like, when you start off reading his statement, it seemed like it was going to go in a very different direction. But, you know, Kibler has always been an expert in terms of handling his image and handling his business, and this was a really great way to do that. And there has been a backlash to this. People are going up to their favorite companies and saying, are you going to do this? Epic Games posted a statement and said, we will not hold our players against this. People are certainly wondering what's going to happen with Li Shiqian, because Li Shiqian has been very vocal for as long as I've known him about things happening over there. And so people are wondering if he could be adversely affected if he were to decide to speak out. And so people are wanting to know what their games and their game companies are going to do. And, you know, there was a backlash even from, you know, we've seen there was a college event that happened last night where in solidarity, the American players held up signs and
I was just
immediately cut away from them. There was a walkout at the Blizzard headquarters today. There was even there's I guess a plaque on the ground that says something about like all spirits or all voices. Someone covered that up with a sheet of paper. And so their own employees are showing solidarity, and this has turned into a really big deal.
It's a massive deal. The NBA has been affected.
They threw 2 players out the other day that had little signs.
Two fans.
Two fans, yeah.
And also, the Houston Rockets are in China right now.
Wow.
The owner of the Houston Rockets lived in Taiwan for some of his life and made a statement, and China is no longer broadcasting the exposition game in China.
Wow.
It's unclear whether it's going to happen at like 4 a.m. my time. It's unclear whether we're going to get the coverage in the United States. So it's all snowballing right now. It's a big deal. And
This is important. Now, 2 things. First is Kibler notes, like, look, don't take your anger out on the other casters or streamers or employees of Blizzard. He can do this. He's financially stable enough to do this, and that's fantastic, but not everyone can. You know, the rank and file aren't necessarily, you know, right behind this decision. They're just kind of stuck, and they needed the job because families. And also, Sig River Guide noted here in the comments, and I want to note as well, he said, I do not think that the spin you put on the story was accurate. The casters were in on what he was going to say.
Well, no, read the rest of the chat, girl. He's being disputed in that. You got to keep up.
Oh, I want to keep up. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm just saying, like, follow the chat. Nobody knows what happened, like, with that. So I'm not entertaining that.
Well, I don't want to entertain like conspiracy theories. I just thought that was information I didn't know.
It's like any stream. You can't play off Twitch chat. You can't.
Fair enough. That said, it is crazy, and it's only going to get crazier.
Yeah.
And just buckle up for some Hong Kong craziness moving on. Feastoflegends.com, from something crazy serious to something crazy not serious. Ruben, can you tell me just a few words about what is happening here?
No, I can't, because the world we live in exists with this now.
What is this?
This is a legitimate role-playing game book.
Is this a GeoCities site?
No, well, that too. Wendy's, the multi-billion-dollar fast food conglomerate, has made a tabletop role-playing game called The Feast of Legends: The Fight Against Frozen Beef. Rise from the Deep Freeze.
Nation of Freshtovia.
Yeah.
Is this real?
It's been, yes. I don't understand the world we live, like, so.
Beef's Keep?
I don't understand why this exists. I don't understand why this exists.
Yeah.
However, it exists, and it's kind of hilarious. Like, so basically, role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons have got, and other role-playing games have gotten to the point where they see it as a marketing opportunity.
Yeah.
The folks at Critical Role given a sponsored stream from the Wendy's Corporation. The Dungeons and Dragons show Twitch streamed channel has that. This is a strange world we live in.
So I clicked on the character sheets, and they have some examples. So here's one of Order of the Baconator Fries.
Yep.
Growing up in a large fry family, things could get a little salty.
Yep.
You've developed a brazen attitude and desire to prove yourself, fiercely loyal to friends with the ultimate sidekick.
Yep.
And you come with the level 1 skill of Grab and Go.
Yep.
And then you have the level 2 skill of Snack Time. Add +1 to your attack rolls on projectiles or thrown weapons. This is wild.
It's a lot. You can be in Order of the Frosty, and you can have the ability 2 spoons.
You get a passive ability of 2 beef patties. You can dual wield any weapons that don't require 2 hands. This is brilliant.
It's actually, I've heard it's a really good game. Like a good role-playing game. And I know that from some of the folks I follow on Twitter that they got legitimate role-playing game folks to help design this game, and the employees in Wendy's that helped design this game.
Did you know that Wendy's also has a rap album?
I didn't know that.
That's go on Spotify. It is hilarious. Rest in Grease is a banger.
Wow. That sounds great. I mean, so the other shoe that dropped is that Wendy's, I don't know if you know this, isn't the best company when it comes to their...
Yeah, no.
So when Critical Role partnered with Wendy's and they did this thing and it aired, there was a lot of backlash.
Oh, that's what that was about. Okay.
Yeah, which was like, Wendy's is kind of a garbage company. Maybe this shouldn't exist. And then they took down the Twitch font. So it's unclear what is going to happen with that. But in any case... let's go back to the part where a fast food conglomerate made a tabletop role-playing game just like as a advertising thing, just like KFC came out with a dating sim a month ago,
which I've heard is awful. Emma played it and said it was just terrible.
Sure.
Shocker. I'm not surprised in any fashion.
I'm waiting for the next. What's the other? We need like a Link's Awakening crossover with Jack in the Box.
No. You need a Link's Awakening with Jimmy Dean Sausage.
Oh, there we go. Link's Awakening, Jimmy Dean Sausage.
Go.
Perfect. That's amazing.
I'm definitely waiting on something to drop from Taco Bell. I think Taco Bell is the next giant.
A hotel. So Taco Bell had their pop-up hotel. There was a legitimate hotel for like a week. That you could rent rooms in and get room service of Taco Bell, and all the towels were designed like hot sauce packets, and I mean, there's
wow, that's brilliant.
That sounds amazing, and all I'm saying is it must be super fun to work in those marketing departments.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got an idea.
Just go wild.
Let's make an RPG.
Yeah.
Let's get people to make art for it and write for it and
puns for it.
Puns all day.
I'm so sad I missed out on being able to create Order of the Baconator,
Oh, you still can. That PDF is still available.
Yeah.
Oh God.
If you would like to. Oh my God. Wow. All right. So turning the corner now to the finisher. The word of the week is crossover. Magic the Gathering and My Little Pony are combining forces to make legendary pony cards because friendship, as you know, is magic. Wendy's created a tabletop role-playing game of which the world's most popular RPG show, Critical Role, played a quote or a hashtag sponsored game, begging the question, how do you want to chew this? And of course, the most ambitious crossover this week, Blizzard and Hong Kong. There were crossovers this week that an Allen Iverson... There were more. What, was that supposed to be more? There were more.
Say more. Yeah.
There were more. I'm just reading it as written. There were more crossovers this week than an Allen Iverson basketball camp. I don't get that. I don't watch those sports. So as we further cross the streams, what is your personal brand's next big crossover project, Ruben?
There's nothing more on brand for me than mono red, but since it's legal in California these days, I'm planning on going mono green. So tune in, turn on, and light up the stage for my newest project, Mox Doobie.
Aaron?
Well, Aaron Campbell ain't a fan of most things, but I'm a big fan of my fans. and my fan. So the next crossover project I'm working on is my first foray into fan service with Miss Erin's Monoclack control.
Nice. Right there. Very nice. Look, here's the deal. Splat pigs are blowing my mind right now. I'm not kidding. Look up decompression splat toys. They're kind of insane. I'm watching these vids nonstop. I bought 3 for my kids. That's a true story. They are insane. And if there's one thing I want for a future set or Patreon reward, it's a decompression splat toy, and not just any splat toy. I want another edition of Splatchick mics. Really?
Now if people had the opportunity to throw me or you or Ruben at a wall, I think they'd do that. I think they'd be like, raw, like it'd be
or a blue microphone.
Yeah.
I'll see if what it costs to get those things produced. Probably a lot.
See how long it takes you to ship them.
Yeah. This finisher was a funny joke up until the point that it wasn't a joke anymore, and then we're actually going to do it.
Jeez.
That's usually how our best ideas come into play. Is somebody's just like, we should do. No, we can't. And
potato.
then
Make a potato.
Make a potato.
That was us with the matches. I remember we had the session, and I was like, we were really stumped for ideas, and I was like, Spark, Fire, can we just do matches? And then you guys were like, that's not bad. Like,
yep.
I had no idea you couldn't send them overseas, but you learn things. You figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
That ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Jeez. Thank you, Ruben.
Honk.
Oh my God. Moving on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online in our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes or Spotify. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.